All right, Jeannie, thanks for doing this for me. I appreciate it.
for having me.
So first of all, why did you decide to participate in this project?
Well, because I think it's an awesome thing to show, because you don't. It is common, you don't know when you see people on the streets what they do when they're doing their job. So it's not uncommon to have a misconception of what people do when they're not at a restaurant, or when they're not at Lowe's or some store, and they could be doing something super honorable, and I think it's nice to recognize that. I decided to join the military because, well, prior to that, I was a correctional officer in the state of Texas. And while that was great, I just felt like I could do something more. And I wanted to do something more. And at the time, my son was 4, and I wanted to do something he would be proud of. Took the leap.
How did you know that you were strong enough to take that leap to do this job?
I honestly didn't. I was 29 years old when I joined, so I was older than most people. I felt I was strong, but I didn't know if I was strong enough. And the day we pulled up to reception and I saw all the drill sergeants with their hats, it hit me. And I was like, oh my gosh, can I do this? And I definitely was scared, but pushed through it. Here we are 13 years later. The personal cost that has been for me to serve and protect is a ton away from my family. I have been stationed everywhere but home. I've been overseas 4 times, and I'm on orders to go overseas a 5th time.
This time's different though, right?
This time's different. My son's actually going to be able to come with me this time. But the other 4 times he hasn't been able to. 3 of those 4 times were dependent restricted, so he wasn't able to. So this one's a lot better. But I would say that's the cost, is just being away from family.
What does it mean to you to be a soldier?
What does it mean to me to be a soldier? It is defending our freedoms. We don't do it necessarily on a daily basis. We spend a lot of time in garrison, and a lot of people don't see that. So we're not fighting every day. We're not shooting guns every day individually, but our brothers and sisters are. So even if we aren't, we're supporting those that are. So as cliche as it might sound, it is defending our freedoms, because if we didn't have those brothers and sisters forward, it would just empower or embolden the enemy over there to advance over here.
This one's going to hit you again, Ben. What sacrifices does your family make for you to serve that people don't see?
What sacrifices does my family make? That would be being away from me. Like I said, my son, while he won't say it, I know that being away from me, so many birthdays and so many holidays, he has never said it. He's never been angry towards me, and it's because he knows that I'm doing something bigger than the rest of us. And even my dad. I think my dad, every time that I've deployed, he's been scared. I'm the only girl, and I'm the only one of the 3 children that is in the military. So for my dad, the sacrifice he makes is his comfort in knowing that we're safe. And for my son, it is time away from me, and probably with him also knowing whether or not mom's safe, especially since he lost his father. What scares me is similar to what I just mentioned is my son lost his dad a few years ago, not military related. But my greatest fear is leaving him without him. Dying doesn't really scare me, but leaving him alone scares me.
What could the public do to show their appreciation or make it easier for you to serve?
Oh man. What could the public do? I think just understanding that we're human, that we're not perfect, and we can't save everyone, and we will make mistakes. We have the good and we have the bad, and I think just continue to support and not letting the few that make poor decisions taint, I guess, the reality that we're all here to do good. And I guess that would be how I feel they could support us better.
Well, I know you personally, and I know that you've had a lot of issues with the people under your command with mental health issues. Is there something that you want the public to understand about the toll that it takes on people?
Being in the military, it definitely can take a toll on the individuals. We're told to be physically and mentally tough. And while we're told that there isn't a stigma, or that there shouldn't be a stigma to seek behavioral health, to seek counseling, there still is. And so a lot of us will shy away from it until we get to a breaking point. And then by then, some people are just really so far gone, they're broken. And at that point, people they need the support. They don't need people to judge them and look at them like they're malingering, or that they're just attention seeking, or that it's not real. Post-traumatic stress is real. It doesn't have to come from combat. It can come from military sexual trauma. It can come from a civilian vehicle accident. It can come from anything. It doesn't have to be a combat-related incident, and I think that's a common misconception, is that, oh, that person's never deployed. How do they have PTSD? And the biggest thing would be for them to understand that behavioral health issues can come from anything within the military.
So what would you tell soldiers about seeking mental health care?
I would say that waiting can really just make it worse. While yes, there can be some people who will look at you like that makes you weaker, but those people shouldn't matter. And I know that's hard to say, because sometimes those people are your evaluators. And believe me, I know. Sometimes they're like, man, I don't want to do that, because what are they going to think of me? But really, what are they going to think of you if you let it get so bad that now you need to go inpatient, or now you have to get medically retired because you never sought help until it was too late? So I would just encourage them to get the help before it's too late.
What has been the hardest time in your military career?
The hardest time?
Or the hardest thing you've ever done? Or
the hardest thing was actually every time that I've had to get on that plane to go overseas.
It wasn't all the days in sandbox. It wasn't treating the wounded. It was stepping on that airplane.
It was stepping on that plane, because it doesn't get any easier. We're trained to treat those injuries. We're trained all the time. Like, we're trained at NTC, we're trained at other pre-deployment exercises, and as medics, we're trained to deal with those types of injuries. And and how to, I guess, kind of shoulder that. But you're not trained to leave your family. And so that doesn't mean that it's easy to see those injuries, but you learn how to deal with them and move forward because you have no choice. People's lives depend on it. But when it comes to leaving your family, nobody teaches you how to deal with that. So for me personally, that's the hardest thing.
Tell me what it means to you to be an American.
What does it mean to be? What it means to me to be an American is the freedom that we have to do what we want on a daily basis, to say what we want to say, the liberty that we have, just to be sitting here and not be suppressed, I think is the biggest thing. We're not a country where we're living, I'm not saying that we don't have some people living in poverty, but the entire country isn't living in poverty, and the fact that we have the resources available to us if needed, we just have the right to do what we can and what we want, whereas in some countries they don't. And I've seen a lot of poor countries and a lot of countries where people are suppressed, and their ability to do things to help themselves is very limited.
So that's kind of the key, being able to help yourself.
Yes, in my opinion. The ability to help yourself is important. I know that some people don't feel that they can, and I know sometimes it's easier said than done. I do completely understand that, but there are some countries where they're just not able to. When I was in Honduras, it's a very, very poor country, and there are people that just can't. The government just can't help them. The economic structure just isn't there. And I think being an American, we're very blessed to have the resources out there to be able to help ourselves. And again, it's easier said than done, but at least it's there. Sometimes, like I said, it's hard, but I appreciate the fact that we have that ability.
Are you proud to be an American?
I'm very proud to be an American. Very proud. What does the future hold for me? Well, hopefully, because I'm at 13, a little over 13 years, hopefully I will serve another 6.5 or so, get my 20 years in. I would love to retire at 20. I would then like to still continue to serve with the Department of Defense, come back as a civilian and serve those who are in my shoes now. So I would still like to work with soldiers in uniform, but be a civilian. So hopefully in 7 years or so, that's what the future holds for me.
Thank you for your service.
And thank you for your support.